Hello there and welcome. I am Napoleon Hill, and I'm interviewing the devil.
You can address me as your majesty.
All right, your majesty, who are you?
I am everywhere and I am nowhere. I live in every atom, every particle, and in every mind. I am the negative to the positive, the down to the up, the dark to the light. I am gossip. I am greed. I am vanity. I prey on drifters, those with no direction, no purpose. I sow the seeds of doubt and weave the threads of worry. I am the one holding you back. I am the one that comforts you and numbs you. Who am I, you ask? Look in the mirror.
Now, your majesty, there may be drifters, but they have the opportunity to become free thinkers. I believe in each one of us there is a guiding light, a beacon of hope. It is a flame burning in each soul, ready to ignite if given the chance. It resides in the hearts and minds of all individuals awaiting realization. There is potential in all of us.
Outwitting your inner devil.
From drifter to leader.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Outwitting the Devil event. And I have the great honor and privilege to introduce our next guest. And I'm a little bit emotional even watching that video and also bringing you up today, Brian, because of how special you are to me and your family. So I want to welcome you, Brian Proctor, to the Napoleon Hill Institute. Welcome. Welcome here today.
Yeah, thanks, Cliona. I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you. I'm so honored. So for those that don't know Brian, I'm going to let Brian speak a little bit about his background and our history together as well and how we met. But before that, for most of you who may know my story and how am I even involved with the Napoleon Hill Institute, it's because of my late mentor who was Brian's father, Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor was my mentor and still is my mentor along with Napoleon Hill. And we're going to get into some amazing discussions today about the history and with Think and Grow Rich and how Bob used to study Think and Grow Rich, and he studied it for over 60 years. But I'll let Brian talk a little bit more about that. So Brian, let's just get started. I want to say thank you. Why don't you give us an update on you? What are you up to? Give us a little update on what you've been doing.
Well, I've been, I have been knee deep in writing a book, as you know, and it's been a 4-year project. I started writing this when my father was alive, and it's really a book about my father. It's a book about the lessons that he taught me throughout my lifetime, and so I have finished it. So that's been my big project. It's called My Father Knew the Secret: Growing Up with Bob Proctor, and it's a pretty sizable book, all with the lessons that I've learned from him over time. And it feels good. It feels really good to have it out there now and out in the public. I think it's a great way of carrying on my father's legacy and really, I think, showing a different side of who Bob Proctor was. You know, I think it's a side of Bob Proctor that really only I could tell. You know, I've been with him all my life. So anyway, that's what I've been up to, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun bringing the book out right now. And it is great being on this call with you, Cliona, because you know, Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill is really the basis of everything that my father did. That was, you know, Think and Grow Rich was his anchor. And it's pretty cool. I don't know if you want me to talk about that or.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm going to share the book here as well, since we're starting off. I want you to all. This is the book, and I don't have the physical copy yet. I can't wait to get it in my hands, Brian. I'm grateful you sent me. So I started reading the book, the PDF version, and I started crying right away because it really did tap into the other side of Bob. You know, Bob as the father, not just the great mentor that everybody knows all over the world, but it showed me that other side of him. So this is the book, everyone. And where can our viewers get the book?
Right now, Cliona, it's available on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon, just do a quick search on there for My Father Knew the Secret, Growing Up with Bob Proctor, and it'll pop up there for you. I actually got my first copy. As crazy as this is, I did a little video around it because it was nuts. This is the first copy I've held in my hands. I've been working on this for 4 years, and we uploaded it on Amazon, and it usually takes a little bit of time to get approved and into their system, and it's in the stores right around the world. Anyways, it happened so much faster than what they said it would happen. And my book, of all days, arrived on Sunday, Father's Day. It was just crazy. So it was kind of cool. So that's where you can get it. You can get it on Amazon. It is now available there. And we've already had quite a few people that have gotten their copy. They're sending me pictures holding their copy, and it's quite satisfying.
It's amazing. Yes, to get it on Father's Day, I don't think that's a coincidence. You know,
No.
I do believe in what your father taught us. We're spiritual beings in a physical body. And that was, in my opinion, my belief, that was his way of saying, here you go, Brian, here's your book. And the fact that it took 4 years and arrived on Father's Day, that's definitely not a coincidence in my eyes.
No, it's not. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, it's something, you know, Dad told me, you know, before he passed away, he wanted me to talk to him every day. And I do that. I have to be careful I don't get myself all choked up right now, but
yes,
you know, we talk to each other still today. And I know that me receiving that on Father's Day was a message. And it was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I feel that too. And Brian, your father touched so many lives, and I do believe, and I was reading that chapter where he told you, talk to me every day. I will be, talk to me and listen is what he said, right? Can you talk, what exactly was the message, the biggest lesson and the last message that he gave you that's in the book?
Well, really, it was that. It was to, you know, to talk to him freely, ask him questions. And he said, I'll feel the answers. And in my interpretation of it today, when I have my conversations with him, I feel his answer in my intuition. I use my intuition as that's him speaking to me. And if my intuition is telling me to do something or not do something, I follow it now. I really do. You know, it's how often we think back on times that, you know, we maybe did something and it went against what we were feeling inside. And it rarely works for us if we do that. But if you do something and it feels right inside, you follow that intuition, you'll never go wrong. And that was really my last lesson from him, was that, just to really listen to my intuition. And he said that, you know, he would speak to me through that. And whether that is or isn't, you know, we're all up to our own opinions on that, but that's how I take it and that's how I treat it. And it certainly is not steering me wrong. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Everything I've done since I've met your father, especially, every decision I make, Brian, is all intuitive. The Napoleon Hill Institute came around because of intuition. Actually, I don't even think you know this story. But when your dad passed in February, there was a few months after, I was still working for the organization. We were all still working there, and I loved it. It was our family. It was everything to me. And when your dad passed, it was a few months later, I started talking to your dad in my mind, and I was saying, you know, Bob, tell me what to do. What do I, give me a sign, show me a sign. And I was sitting at my makeup table, Brian. I was doing my makeup. I do my thing. And the words Napoleon Hill fell into my mind. And that's how this all started. I heard Napoleon Hill, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? I studied Napoleon Hill all the time. And I started Googling Napoleon Hill, and I found the foundation. That's how I met Don Green, and hence here we are today. We brought back the Napoleon Hill Institute, which was created in the 50s by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. So I totally agree with you. This message, and it's in the book. The book will probably bring you to tears, everyone. But for me, I think it's the most important message. When we listen to that inner guidance, our intuition, it never steers us wrong. It's so true. So true. So it took 4 years for you to write the book, right? And do you want to just give us some of your favorite stories of your dad, whatever comes to your mind intuitively right now? Some of your favorite memories?
You know, I got lots of favorite memories. I'll share something that I think everybody will benefit from. This is something that I guess I had been doing for a long time, unconsciously. And I was, back in the late 80s, I was in real estate. I had worked for Dad when I was a late teenager, early 20s, and I had to get out, kind of leave that business and do something on my own. You know, when you got to prove something to yourself that you can get out there and make it on your own. And so I got into real estate, and I was a real estate salesperson in the Toronto area. And within the first year in real estate, I had actually made it onto the top 100 for this very large real estate company worldwide. I really just did extremely well. And I was at a seminar in Palm Desert, right next to Palm Springs. And there was a fellow doing the seminar. His name is Mike Ferry. And Mike Ferry, I believe, worked at Nightingale Conant with my father back in the 60s or 70s. Anyways, Mike is a real estate trainer, and he was holding this very large event. There's about 2,000 real estate agents in the audience. And I was sitting right up in the front row. Well, Mike asked me up on stage, and I wasn't quite sure what that was about. And he started sharing that, you know, he knew my father, and he heard how well I was doing at real estate. And Mike asked me, why did I feel I was doing so well at real estate? What was that special sauce? What was it I was doing? And I thought about it for a minute, and it took me back to when I was in grade 4 and we had just moved to Chicago. I had lived, at that time, we'd already lived in Toronto. We moved to England, moved back to Toronto. Then we moved to Chicago. So by grade 4, I'd already been in 3 or 4 different schools. And we're in this home on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois. You know, my father talked about this house quite a bit. And I was sitting there with him in the den that I know he's talked about on, you know, many YouTube videos about, you know, where he made his plan in the den on this house. Well, I remember sitting with him, and I said to him, I said, Dad, you know, I'm kind of nervous. I'm starting, you know, school again in the new school. I'm the new kid. I was just really didn't like being that new kid all the time. You know, and he gave me some advice back at that age. I don't know what I would have been, probably 9 years old, that stuck with me for my life. And what it was he says, Brian, he says, if you just go out there and anybody you talk to, you just put these letters across their forehead, MMFI. And I looked at him, and he says, they stand for make me feel important. He says, if you talk to everybody that you approach, that comes in front of you, make them feel important, be interested in them. He says, you will get on in the world in incredible ways. And that worked for me. You know, it helped me make friends very easily. And I guess it's something that I adopted without really realizing it. And that day back in the late 80s at this seminar, it hit me that that's what it was. And, you know, Dad likes to call it leaving everybody with an impression of increase. And that's probably the number one lesson I can say that I learned from him, is that you leave everybody you come in contact with the impression of increase. If you can make them feel better because they were in your presence that particular day, you're gold. And people will want to do business with you. They'll want to help you. Just so many good things will happen to you. And I know I did that when I was in real estate. And my gosh, I never had to cold call for business. I got referrals constantly because it was just naturally, that's the way it worked, because of the way I dealt with people. And ever since that seminar, I've made it more of a conscious choice to do that. I think I was doing it unconsciously. And when you do it consciously, you can be even more effective with it. And, you know, we can find something good about anybody. And that's all you have to do. You have to just look for the good and, you know, pay a sincere compliment. Be interested in something. Ask them an engaging question. You know, how often do we hate when we're in a room, let's say we're one of these, you know, networking, mingling things, and you meet somebody and all they do is they just keep talking to you and they're just spewing everything they're doing, what they're up to, all this. And it's like, oh my God, you just want to get away from this person. But if they're asking you engaging questions and they're interested in you, boy, you sure like talking to them. And that's really it. You know, what can you do to make the person that's in front of you feel important? So for me, that would probably be the number one lesson I learned from Dad, and I learned that from a very young age. And what's interesting is I find my kids do that now. My son Danny, my daughter Ann, they do the same thing. They just leave everybody they come in contact with the impression of increase. They feel better because they were there.
Yeah, it's true. And I witnessed it firsthand every time I came in contact with you and the organization at trainings. Your family, you live by that rule. You do. Make MMFI, make me feel important. And that's how I felt every time I came across you. And it's really, really important. It may seem simple, but this advice here could change your life. This advice is really, really impactful for your business, your personal life. If you just have, and I think one of the key words you said, Brian, it has to be sincere. We can't be fake about it, because it's intuitively people will know if your intention is pure or not. You're just looking for something, they'll feel it, right?
Absolutely.
So it has to be sincere. Brian, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about your life. I used to work with my mom, and that's a whole other story. I love you, Mom. But it wasn't easy. You know, you're working for your mom, and there were days where I wanted to do it my way. She wanted it her way. And that's the way it is when you work with family. Can you talk a little bit about your experience working with your dad? What was that like to work for your father, or work with him?
I can honestly say it was incredible. So, you know, as I said, I left and I went into real estate for probably 12 years. And then in the late 90s, just right around 98, 99, 2000, somewhere in there, you know, Dad talked me into coming back into the company and working with the company. And so, you know, for the last 23 years, I had worked with him. And honestly, it was great. I can't say anything negative around it. You know, Dad and I we were very, very close. You know, we talked multiple times every day. I loved working with him. His message was true. And he, you know, for those of you watching that know Bob Proctor or have seen Bob Proctor, what you see on YouTube and everywhere else, that is the man. That's who he was. There was nothing fake about Dad, you know. And when he talked to you, he always let you know what he was thinking. And if he thought it was right or not right, he never shied away from anything like that. He was very direct, but in a really good way. And, you know, I mean, yes, he was my father, but he was also probably my best friend. You know, we talked so frequently, and he was just, whenever I think of Dad, I just think of a loving man. He was just always so caring, so loving. He only wanted good for me and for, you know, everybody else. And that was really special. You know, there was nothing fake about him. You know, we would have conversations early in the morning. We're both morning people, and so Dad always he could call me at 5 a.m. He knew I'd be up, and it was a bit of a joke because everybody else is asleep. So we'd chat, and one of the habits that we got into was we started talking good about people behind their back. And I saw in your trailer one of the nasty things is gossip. And how true that is. So many people get involved in nasty gossip. Well, Dad and I kind of flipped that, and we thought, how nice would it be to talk about people behind their backs in a good way? And it was always a positive experience talking with him, and we had conversations about you. Certainly had lots of conversation about Mario and Chris, some of the other people that are working with you there now. And it was just always such a nice way to start the day. So that was our relationship. That's who he was. And it was a really good thing.
It's beautiful. I love it. What a great idea. Let's call up and talk good about people. We'll start a trend, Brian. We're going to do
there you go.
Make that go viral.
It's such a positive thing, Cliona. And it's when you're talking about somebody good behind their back, they may not know it, but I'm here to tell you the energy that you're putting through you and who you're talking with is really positive, and it will attract good things. And you can play with it too. If you ever get in a conversation with somebody that is getting into the gossip, try to switch it around and start talking positive about whatever they were getting into and see what happens. It's really easy to change the direction of a conversation if you have focus and know where you want to go with it.
Yes. On that point, focus, that's one of the things that I so admired about your father. His willpower and his focus. I have never met anyone like that. Like, I aspire to have his will and focus. Can you talk a little bit about that, about Dad's will? Like there was no one could distract him. If he wanted something, he made sure he could get it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's kind of fitting. So I hope you don't mind me bringing it up because you're there with the Napoleon Hill Institute. What got my father into the business is the book that's right behind your shoulder, Think and Grow Rich. He was given that book in October of 1961. I was born in December of 1961. So that book has been around my entire life. And that book, honestly, I believe shaped who he was. If you've seen videos and stuff, you see Dad always holding up a book. A lot of people think he's holding the Bible or something like that. He's holding Think and Grow Rich. That book has been in his hands. Well, he got his original copy in 1961. In 1963, my uncle, his brother Al, gave him this special leather-bound copy. And that's the copy that you always see my father hold. And he studied that book every single day for his entire life. It was really kind of cool. Last week and a half, I was up in Toronto, and I stayed with Linda, my dad's wife. I stayed at their house, and Linda has that book, and that book just my God, the energy that thing has is it's unbelievable. Well, when you hold that book, not only can you feel my father, but you understood what it meant to him, because this book was so worn. I've never seen anything like it. He needed a big rubber band. It goes around it together. Otherwise, it would just fall apart. If you take the rubber band off, you got to be really careful opening it because it will just fall apart. And it was that way because he literally studied that book every day. And when you talk about his willpower, I think anybody that's studying the work of Napoleon Hill will get this. And if you're not, you should start right away, because that was if he was ever asked what his favorite book was, it was always Think and Grow Rich. That was his number one book all the time. And 2 chapters out of the book, in my opinion, were probably his, I guess, dominating whatever it was in the back of his head. And that would be the chapter on decision and the chapter on persistence. And Dad was always of the opinion that you have to make a decision and carry on with whatever it is that you made the decision on, and just get moving forward. He never procrastinated. And, you know, if you read that chapter, it talks about people that procrastinate never attract much wealth into their life and never attract a lot of good, because they're not out there taking action. But people that make a decision, good or bad, but you make a decision, get on with it. They don't always work out for you, but more often than not, they will. And, you know, you talked about his focus. That would get into the chapter on persistence. I think when I look at my father, I think he was probably one of the most persistent people I have ever seen. You know, the last few years of his life, he was at the top of his game. In the personal development world, you know, everybody knew who Bob Proctor was. He had a very, very large following. Well, it wasn't always that way. You know, in the early years, in the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, personal development was not what it is today. And a lot of people rejected it. And he had to really, he had that persistence just to keep on going and to keep doing what he was doing, because he knew that it would change lives. And it took more persistence for him to carry through to be where he ended up than anything else. And he got that out of that book, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, that's who he was. And I think it's because of that book that he was so focused. Like he was just, he would come up with an idea and he would act on that idea right away. And without fail, it would work out. I mean, it was just, that's the way he moved in the world. And I think it's a really powerful thing. It's something that we can all learn from.
It really is. It really is, Brian. I love that you brought up those two chapters, decision and persistence. And people say to me, well, how have you created this and that so far? It's, you know, I watched your father. I wanted to work with him. I even told him, I said, I'll move to Canada and I'll hold your coffee cup. I'll do whatever it takes. He said, you don't have to do that, Cliona. You know, but it's right now for me, I look back, connect the dots, looking back, and it's decision. I make a decision and I go. And I've learned that from your father, how powerful that is. Everything will move out of the way if you persist and you have faith. He had beautiful faith. His faith was, you know, on another level. There was no such thing as no with your dad. That's what I noticed. No was not in his vocabulary at all, right? Can you talk, and in your book, and I can't wait till you all read the book, can you talk a little bit about, so you obviously, you were at every seminar probably, you were just, everything was going into your subconscious mind from your father, his teachings, his events, right? And so you were practicing and applying everything you were learning. And I really love the story in your book about how you even attracted Corey, your wife, your beautiful wife, who I love you, Corey. Can't wait to see you. Can you talk a little bit about, you made a decision, and talk about how you attracted beautiful Corey?
Sure. You know, that was always one of the big questions that, you know, somebody in the audience would ask my father, you know, how do I attract the love of my life? It was a very, very common question. And he always said that you need to get focused on the qualities you want in a person. And I had gone through a rough relationship, and I just took a break. I took a couple of years. I didn't date. I didn't do anything. I just wanted to kind of redo myself, just reinvigorate myself, you know?
Yeah.
And when I was ready to attract somebody back in my life, I did kind of what Dad said, what he always talked about in seminars. He said, start writing out the traits and the personality traits and everything in a woman that you want. Don't get fixated on one person or what they really have to look like. Get fixated on what they're all about. And so I created a Word document. and I started to write out the perfect woman for me, what she enjoyed, what she was like, how she lived, how generous she was, you know, just all the things that would make a woman really special for me. And I would open up that document every morning and I'd read it. And that was one of the first things I did every day. And sometimes I would add to it. I would take out a couple of things. And I ended up with this document that was just perfect. And I just read that every day. And I started writing in my gratitude journal how happy I was that I was attracting this woman into my life and that she was being brought to me. Well, here's the crazy thing. So that's what I did. And I went on a few dates, and I knew at one date if this woman was even close to what I had described in my thing. And if she wasn't, that was it. You know, I went on a lot of first dates. And it was like, I'm not messing around. I don't want to be with somebody that's just to be with somebody. And Corey and I, you know, Corey worked with us in the seminar company at the time. And we would get together at events. So I would see her probably every couple of months. And we'd go for a walk in the morning, usually before the event started or after the event, just to get some fresh air. And we really became good friends. Well, I think Dad kind of knew that there was a little something there. And he had set up for the two of us to sit off to the right of the room, out of the lights, off the stage, that he could see the two of us. And he wanted a table there, and he put the two of us at that table so that if he needed anything during the event, he could call on one of us and it would be taken care of. Well, I think he was just playing with us and kind of setting us next to each other, you know.
Setting you up.
He was setting me up. And I'll never forget that when Corey and I started actually seeing each other, my God, my father was happy. He was so happy. And I knew that Corey was the perfect woman. She was everything that was in my description. All of her traits, all of her magic. It was all in that description. So it was perfect. It was easy. And it took no time at all before I asked her to marry me, because she was the one for me. And we wanted to do a very small wedding with just the kids. Corey and I are also both morning people. So we wanted to get married in Hawaii. And we wanted to get married when the sun rose. So we had somebody come to marry us at 6:30 in the morning in Hawaii. And we had our kids there. That was it. Well, Dad was so happy about this that he had to crash the wedding. And he was actually part of the wedding, and he actually did part of the ceremony, which was really special. Yeah, he was just so thrilled that Corey and I got together, because I think he saw it in Corey before I even did. No surprise, really, you know.
Yeah, but your dad was usually right. Your dad was usually right, probably all of the time.
That was the key. I just wrote out that document, and I read it every day, and I would tweak it, and I got focused on what it was that I really wanted in somebody, in a partner. And I think, you know, typically we don't give that enough energy, Cliona. We don't think about stuff like that. We just think, oh, there's this person, you meet them, you whatever. But boy, when you can get clear on what it is you're looking for, you're going to attract the right person. And then, you know, like I said, I wrote in my gratitude journal that she was on her way, and I just felt it. And there
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. What's amazing is, like, we didn't rehearse this or anything. We had a speaker earlier today who you might remember, Dan Matthews. He was a good client of ours, and he's teaching now, and he's teaching the science with personal development, and he's bridging the gap. And he did a session earlier at 12 o'clock, and I'll send you a copy so you can watch it. Everything you just said is what he taught and how he attracted his wife. Everything you just said. Yes, to a T. So I think, I don't know, he's such a good man. And there must be love in the air today, Brian, and everybody's going out to attract the Napoleon Hill Institute's becoming not a dating place, but it sounds like we've nailed down the how to attract the love of your life today between you and Dan Matthews. I'm so happy. It's so good. So I wanted to actually, there's somebody in the waiting room who wants to come on and just share a couple of his favorite memories with you and your dad, or with your dad. And it's Mario Piccone, who you worked with for many years. So
hey, Mario.
Hey, Mario, there you go. How are you?
Awesome. Awesome. You know, I have to say this. This is, to me, it's so surreal to have you on with us today, because I tell people your dad was more than a mentor to me. He was like a father to me, and he does, and still does, have a special place in my heart. And it's amazing because a lot of the stories you're telling us, I was physically there, so I remember those stories. And you know, you shared about this Corey story, and one thing that he told me, this was at I think it was at a Matrix, either Matrix or Paradigm Shift, but I think it was a Matrix. And I said to him, you know, wow, it's really nice with Corey and Brian if they're going to get together. And he looked at me, he goes, I don't know what the hell he's waiting for. So, but it's awesome, because you know what? You are a product of the product. I mean, you had it exposed to you every single day, right? But it's one thing to be exposed to it, but it's also another thing to apply what you're being taught.
Right.
Right. And that's what you did. You just trusted. And I remember a lot of times with Bob, it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. But I knew that it was coming from the right place.
Right.
I knew that he had his interests aside, he was just channeled in on you, and you knew that he's coming straight from the heart. And that's what I love about him the most. And yes, we do have our daily conversations, so that'll never stop. But you know what? I would love, you know, with your book, I got my copy yesterday. I got one for myself and one for my wife, Nadia, which you know. What I love about it, if you could just touch upon, is you put the consider piece to it, which a lot of books don't have that. And I would just love for you to talk about how significant that piece really is and why you put it in there.
You know, Mario, thanks. That's a great question. First off, I got to say, for everybody that's watching this, if you have the opportunity to speak with Mario, you want to talk to that man. My father loved you, Mario.
Thank you. I loved him.
So the consider piece in the book was really my wife's idea. When I started writing this book, and I was getting close to the end, Corey started to go through it and edit it. And she really, honestly, Corey made the book a much better version of what I started with. And I had the stories and I had the lessons and I had everything all kind of woven together. And it was her idea. She says, Brian, what if you take the stories and let them stand on their own, and then put consider points after the stories that actually show or cause somebody to think about how they can apply that story, that lesson, into their life. I thought, wow, that's perfect. It just felt right. So that's really how that came to be, and that's why it's there. So those consider points are done in a way that, you know, when you read the book, you're going to read a story, and hopefully you like all the stories, but you know, some stories will resonate with you, some probably won't, but the ones that really resonate with you, you get through that, and then you look at the consider points, and that will help anchor it and really show how you can use that message and apply it into your own life, to live a better life. You know, Dad was always about, you know, living a better life. And, you know, this book is my way to really honor him. You know, I've said before, this book is nothing. It's not about me. And I think that's why I'm so comfortable talking about it, because it's really all about my father, and it's really about his lessons and how I applied those lessons in my life to live a better life. Like I'm living in a home that I absolutely love. with a woman that I absolutely love. And gosh, all of that is because of my father. And it's because of what I learned from him. So I took, I took Corey's advice, and we changed it up a little bit, and we had the stories and then the consider points. And I just think it anchors the book in a different way. And I think it's a good tool to see how you can apply a lesson in your own life. So that's really how that came to be.
It's perfect. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Think and Grow Rich, the word action shows up in there 77 times.
Oh, really?
Actual word, yeah. And that's really what you're telling people to do, right? You're telling people to apply and take action.
You know what? That makes sense. It totally makes sense. Dad always said that, when he was in the movie The Secret, it talked about the law of attraction and how you give energy and thought to what it is you want. But he always said the one thing that was missing was that they never really got into you got to go out and take action.
Exactly.
And that's actually the last chapter in the book. I talk about it's time to get out there and start taking action. Because that was the big thing I learned from Dad, is that not only do you just have to dream up this life that you want, but you have to go out and act to make that come into your world. That's the magic. Most people think if I just dream it, it's going to happen. Well, it might, but it will definitely happen if you step out and take action. He always said, if you have a worthy goal, you will get up and do things in a day that you wouldn't normally do so that you can achieve what it is that you're going after. And it's in that growing, in that moving towards something, that's where we grow and where we learn. And that's it. And that's a great picture, Dad, holding the Think and Grow Rich book right there.
It is.
Yes. We wanted to bring it up, and I just wanted to look at him holding the book, being with us right now. I feel he's with us. And it just brought back a memory to my mind, Brian and Mario. You were there when we had these meetings every now and again. Bob would come in. We would have a sales team meeting, and there was a week things were just not going well. I don't know what was going on. It was almost like everybody was asleep or something. I don't know. But your dad came in, and we had a sales meeting. And he's like, what's going on with all of you guys? Why don't you go out and eat some ice cream or something and feel good? And I'm like, why would he tell us to go eat ice cream? And I got it. I connected the dots looking back. It was so we would feel good and we would relax and have fun and feel good again and take action. Right. And he just had, honestly, in my opinion, the greatest teacher of Think and Grow Rich, obviously apart from Napoleon, but your dad is the greatest teacher of Think and Grow Rich in the world. And
I would agree, Clio. I mean, I don't know anybody that studied that book like he did. I really don't. I mean, and he studied that book right up to his last day here on Earth. It's
wow.
That says a lot. It really does.
It does. We love you, Bob. I know you're here. I have pictures of him all around me, Brian, at home. And I, just like you, I'll ask him questions and I'll listen to see what I'm hearing. And intuitively, I'll pick up things. And I hear him, do your work and a little bit more work and just go to work. Right?
He probably has Earl Nightingale and Napoleon right by his side right now, watching all three of us.
He probably does.
He probably does.
Yeah. So. That's what we say here. We're like, they must be all together. How could all this happen so fast? And here we are, leading the Napoleon Hill Institute. They're all together, and Earl Nightingale's wife is coming to join us, Diana Nightingale. Awesome. So I believe they're together. I don't know what happens when we cross over there, but they're up to something, those three. Sure.
Well, you guys are doing great work, and you certainly got the right material behind you. So that's a pretty wonderful thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I love that you said, Mario, Bob was a father figure to many. And me included. He really was a father figure. And so just tapping into your intuition, Brian, if your dad was going to give us a message right now, what advice do you think he would give us as we're going forward? Our goal and our mission, Brian, is to actually touch 8 billion lives and impact and improve 8 billion lives. Do we know the how? No. But as he taught us, we don't need to know the how. We just progress along. We made a decision. We persist. We have faith. So what advice do you think your dad would give us today?
Oh, I think it's easy. He would just say, go out and impact one person right now. That's it. You know, so often we can think about how are we going to impact, you know, thousands of people. Well, you impact them one at a time, two at a time, three at a time, it'll grow. But you have to get out and impact one person right now. What can you do right now to change somebody's life, the direction of somebody's day? That's it. You got to take action. You know, he was always an action taker. You know, so for everybody that's watching, everything that's being offered to you here, like take action, make a decision and do it. And if it feels right, jump in and do it. And I think what you guys are doing is incredible work, and you will touch all of those lives. And you'll do it by just stepping out and doing it a day at a time. You know, Dad always said that, you know, things can happen quickly, and it'll happen even quicker if you just step out and take action on it right now. Don't wait until tomorrow. You know, so many people plan themselves and plan and plan and plan, and they end up doing nothing. But the people that get on in this world are the ones that step out and do something right away. So what can you do right now to make a decision, step out and do something right away? That's what he would be telling you. Wow. I know it.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best advice. Yes. Right. Impact one life, one person, take action. This is how he lived. And you're right. He would text me at sometimes, I think it was 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm like, what is he doing? He's watching everything. It's only 5. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good, Brian. Your book is amazing. I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but what I've read so far, like I said, has brought tears to my eyes. But it also has very important teachings in the book, like some of the greatest teachings that you learned from your father and yourself by applying the material. So whoever's watching this, make sure you get the book. I'm going to put it on the screen again, if we can have it on the screen. It's on Amazon, but it's My Father Knew the Secret. And oh, yes, he did. And for those that don't know Bob, myself, Mario, Brian, there was a team of us. He has impacted millions of lives. Bob Proctor has impacted millions, mine included. My whole life has changed completely because of the teachings from your father, Brian, and his mentorship. So I am forever grateful to you and to your family and to your father. I'll do anything for you and your family. You know, you guys have really changed many lives, including mine. And now we're going to continue the legacy. I feel like your dad worked so hard. He gave all of him from morning to night. He did not stop. He just kept going. He was teaching classes right up, and it's in the book. When you read the book, you'll see the stories. He gave all of himself to the mission of helping change lives, and I feel like we're being called to carry the torch, Brian. So whatever we can do to continue on the legacy of your father, we will.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks, Cliona. You know, I really appreciate it. And, you know, I'm really, as funny as it says, I'm proud of the book. I just feel that I've got the essence of my father in there. It feels right. It feels good. And I'm really, really happy to share it with the world. And I think it does show a side of my father that nobody really knew, because Dad never talked about his private life. He always said in the seminar, he says, you know, you guys love me, but you don't know anything about me. And you love me because I'm always talking about you. And that was true. You know, he never talked about his personal life. And this book really does share what Bob Proctor was like on a human level, in a really, really personal way. So I hope you get the book. I hope you really enjoy it. As I say, it's on Amazon now, or you can go to, you know, brianproctor.com. It's all there. You can, and you can get it. And I appreciate the support. I really do.
We will. Let's get this book out. The goal is 100,000 by his birthday, July 5th. Let's do Bob proud. He has given so much to us. Share it with your friends and your family. And just, I guess the easiest way is to go to brianproctor.com. And one of the stories in the book that really touched my heart, I won't get into it right now because we'll all probably start crying, but it was his last when he was leaving the hospital and he wanted to go home. The story of how he treated people in the hospital, even at that time in his life, that he was applying what you taught us today, was making people feel important, even on his last hours or days,
even
right?
when he was not feeling well, that was paramount to him.
Yes.
It's a special, I can't even share that story right now because I don't think it, you know, but it's, it's, he was an amazing man. And I think there's a lot of value that's in those pages. I had fun putting it into pages. It was good for me as well. You know, it was a good thing.
Yes. Yes. So if we can be just even a small percentage of what your father was, we're going to make a big impact. That's for sure. That's on great. This world. Do you have a few more minutes for questions? Some of the audience, if you have questions for Brian, now is the time to put them in. I would love to share your questions with him. And as we wait for those to come in, Mario, what's your favorite memory?
My favorite memory? Well, a couple of them I can't share because they're got a guy talk. But my most favorite memory was the first time that he asked me to go to the paradigm shift with him on his jet. That was something that I never expected to happen, and just being there with Bob and just having a guy-to-guy conversation, knowing that he's, you know, this big guy that people put up on this pedestal, but truly he was just one of us. And he just wanted people to live a beautiful life, whatever that meant for them, right? So that memory sticks out pretty strong. And then there are so many stories. I'm very blessed and grateful to have, you know, been a part of his life. So I appreciate that.
Well, and I know I can speak for him. He loved having you in his life, Mario.
Thank you.
I can say that without a doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, he truly cared, you know, and he showed that. He was always available. If you needed help, he's like, text me, it doesn't matter. If you need help, bring me on the phone. He was always available. It didn't matter what time. He was so humble. He was just a humble man, and doing great work. So one of the questions that we have here, Brian, that just came in, is what is one thing that your dad challenged you to do and you followed it to a T?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the home I'm in right now. This was a big commitment, this place. Corey and I owned another home in Florida, and we had bought a place here on the West Coast, and the house was really a tear down, but it was right on the water. And we wanted to really build a new house. We could have just renovated what was here, but we really wanted to build a new house. And it was a major commitment. Didn't want to get a mortgage or anything like that. And so, you know, I can clearly remember going and having lunch with him. He was in Florida visiting, and the two of us went out for lunch, and, you know, we were talking, and it comes back to what I talked about earlier, decision. And Dad just said to me, he says, Brian, is this what you want? Do you really want this house? And I said, yes, it is. And he says, well, then just make a decision and get out and do it. He said, don't worry about what you have to do or how you're going to do it. You don't need to know right now. All you need to do is make a decision to step out and do it. And you'll find the way as you step into it. And it was so true. I didn't know how we were going to pull this off. Both Corey and I, we really didn't know. And we built the house exactly the way we wanted. We did not look at, my dad would have been really proud. We didn't look at what it was going to cost to do certain things. If that's what we wanted in the house, that's what we did. And we paid no attention to what it was going to cost. And it ended up costing us twice what it was originally planned. But you know what? We did it. And I didn't know how we were going to do it, but that was the biggest thing. He challenged me to just step out and do it, bet on myself. He says, you'll never lose if you bet on yourself. And what we talked earlier, you just got to get out and take action. Don't sit back and think, oh, it's just going to happen. Step out and take action. What can you do today that's going to get you one step closer to whatever it is that you want? And that's it. And that's what I did. And that was the big challenge. And now Corey and I are living in this home. And, like I say, we absolutely love it because it's exactly what we wanted. We built it the exact way that we wanted. And wow, great life here because of that. And it was really Dad that pushed us over the edge, or certainly pushed me over the edge. And made the committed decision to step out and do whatever it took to make it happen.
You know what's coming to my mind? Well, first of all, congratulations. I can't wait to see pictures of it. I saw you by the water when you got the book in your hands, when your book arrived on Father's Day on that video. If you haven't seen that video, you need to check it out. It's on Facebook and Instagram. When the book arrives, Brian opens the Amazon packet right live on the video. And it looks absolutely beautiful. But I could just hear him saying right now, well, if you believe in what we teach, right?
Very much. Very true. Yeah. Might not have been those exact words, but they were probably pretty close.
Something along those lines. Do you believe in what we teach? It's like, go make a decision. And he would, I'm sitting in my apartment in New York because of your father. My dream was always to have a beautiful place in Manhattan in New York, coming from poverty. I'm like, how am I going to do this? But I had faith and I believed what your dad was teaching us. I believed in the principles of Think and Grow Rich. And I borrowed your dad's belief in me as I was progressing and I was growing, but yeah, he would make us put ourselves on the hook. And I think he did that on purpose so we could, to test our faith as well. And that's how we learned, and that's how we created these beautiful homes.
No doubt about it. The other thing that he said that was really important, and you guys are a great example of this, is who you surround yourself with. Makes all the difference in the world. Make sure you're surrounded with people that are taking action, that are positive, that are doing something good in the world. You surround yourself with people like that, good's going to flow your way.
Yes, very important. Yes. He used to say you're the sum of the 5 people, right, that you surround yourself with. Okay, I have a couple more questions, and then I'll do one more question here, and then we can bring it in for a landing. So, Brian, what is one of your major goals?
Oh, well, that's easy. I said that earlier. So my goal is coming to a head right now. This is something I've been working on for 4 years, and that's this book. So my major goal is that I want to sell over 100,000 copies within the month of July. I think if I can do that, the book will take off virally, and it will get in the hands of whoever needs it. As I said, this book is not about me. It's really about my father. And I just know that whoever gets this book in their hands is going to benefit from it. So my major goal is to have this book be one of those success stories that you hear about. And I can already feel it. I know it in my core. I can see the things that are starting to happen.
Yes.
And it's because I'm taking action. Corey and I laugh. We think Dad is in heaven right now, looking down and laughing at me. I never was big on getting on video, getting on stage. And now I'm getting on stage, I'm getting on video, and I'm doing whatever it takes to get this book out there. And so, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. And that's a real positive thing. That's something Dad always said. He said, you can step out of your comfort zone, you are going to do things in this world. And so, yeah, that's my big goal. Is to make this book a serious bestseller, not just a regular bestseller. I want it out in the world because I know what's in there will change people's lives. It's changed my life, and that's why I know, because I've lived it, and I know that whoever gets this book, you'll benefit from it. It's just, it's not a lot of money to go out and get a book and learn something that you wouldn't have even thought you'd needed to learn. But boy, can it make it in your day. So that's it.
And
that's
you have what Napoleon talks about, the opposite of a drifter is someone who has a definiteness of purpose backed by a burning desire. This is what you just explained. You have definiteness of purpose backed by a burning desire, and the desire is coming from why you want people to read the book. And it's because the lessons in this book, and this is the truth, the lessons in this book, some of the teaching, and even in the book, it took me years and years to figure out and learn, years and years. And it's in, you collected it, you organized it in a way. Some of the key transformational lessons that I've learned is in your book. And that's the truth. What I've read so far, you put it together powerfully. So thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks, Cliona. It was fun putting it together. It's as you said, I've been at Bob Proctor seminars since I was a young kid. I remember when I was really young, going to sleep underneath a table at a seminar in the evening. It was because it got too late. So I've literally been around it my entire life. And when I started to work on this book, I had reams and reams of notes that I'd taken at seminars through the years. And so it was kind of fun. I was able to take the notes of how I related to a seminar at particular times, the stories with Dad over my lifetime, and kind of compile it all together into what I hope is a pretty concise way of delivering the message of who he was and what he did to change people's lives.
It's amazing. Well, I'm so grateful that you persisted. Well, you made a decision and then you persisted over 4 years to put all of this information together and share with us those beautiful memories, those beautiful moments that you're giving to the world. So whoever's watching this, get the book. I see Kevin Fernandez, good man. He already bought the book. He said it'll be here on Saturday. And one of the ladies is asking, why is it not in the Apple store? It will be soon, right? Is it going to be on audio or?
Yeah, so it will be audio, but it won't probably be audio for another 2 months. I haven't recorded it yet. My whole focus is just getting the print version out. And right now it's just on Amazon. We're working on getting on other platforms. And that's a thing in itself. So, but yes, it will be on audio. It will be in Kindle. It'll be all the different platforms, but some of those might take a month and a half before that happens. Right now we've just got it in print form, and everything else will follow.
Yeah. All right. I've got a few more, just bought it. Perfect. Good job. Action takers. You're learning fast. Amazing. Brian, from my heart, I thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for your time and your wisdom today.
Thank you, Cliona. I really appreciate you having me on. And
I hope to see you soon.
I'm sure
we will be together soon. Yes. All right. So let's get this goal going in true Bob Proctor fashion. 100,000 books. I'm so happy and grateful now that by July 5th, 2023, we have distributed and sold 100,000 of the book, 100,000 copies of the book. Let's get that going. Of My Father Knew the Secret.
Thank you, Cliona.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Let's bring it in for a landing. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you very soon.
Do you feel it? In the air, the trees, the earth. There is an awakening, a calling, a movement. It is your time. Remember who you are. Join us back to the source.
I will give you the master key with which you may open the door to the attainment of your desires, whatever they may be.
So I came to find that family, that tribe, and I absolutely found it, and I'm just thrilled because it's just the start. The seed's kind of just been sown and it's just sprouted.
It's just a starting point, a spark of something great that's going to impact the world globally. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this event because it's historical. We've had many organizations and institutes before, but it's something different and special about this one.
Everybody was just greeted with such open arms and with such great heart. The event, the things that we did, the activities we did, the meditations, the self-improvement mantras were just fabulous. It's life-altering, truly is.
The energy was high. It was incredible to meet the people that I'd seen on Zoom. And so it's just lived beyond my expectations.
I am in NHI because I believe in serving people and changing millions and billions of lives.
It was more than I anticipated, but beyond what I expected.
I love this material, Think and Grow Rich. I love coaching, and I want to serve people with this information.
And I've been studying Napoleon Hill's Laws of Success. I've listened to the Think and Grow Rich original movie where he comes on and he's, how do you do? You know, I've watched it time and time again. And so to see all of this manifest into this moment, to where we are the first people in over 120 years to have access to Andrew Carnegie's library, in addition to the events and all the enrichment and the energy, the pure energy and the joy that you see of the people that are here is nothing short of a magnificent romantic fantasy.
If you are considering joining a program where you get to learn how to affect someone else's life, like if that's a calling that you have inside of you, like if you feel that and you want to go out into the world and you want to actually go, I can help you, right? I've been through the trials and tribulations of growing myself and becoming the best version of me, and I'm still working on it every day. If you want that, like if that's a calling that you feel deep inside of who you are, if that's a calling that you feel, there is absolutely no better institution than the Napoleon Hill Institute to help you get to that next level. They are holding the keys to the Pandora's box of possibility, and it is going to be a tremendous journey. And if that is your calling, like if that's what people are after, then this is the exact right place at the exact right time for them to take it to a whole new level.
We are on a mission to transform lives all over the world. We're operating from a heart of service. We're operating from a heart with integrity. And we know that Napoleon Hill's material works.